My name is Ardal. It is a real name, and I'm a real person. And this is Ireland, a real place, as well as an imaginary one. There are just a few things about my country I could do without. But mostly, I love it. To help me separate the myth from the reality, I'm going to consult this old guidebook to Ireland. It was written by the formidable Mr. and Mrs. Hall, an Anglo-Irish couple who condescended their way around the country, examining every facet of Irish life for better or for worse. Idle, reckless, unprincipled. It was the drink, James, it was the drink. Their observations of Ireland and the Irish took root in the minds of their English readers. But was there any merit in them? Are we really a bunch of superstitious, God-fearing, whiskey-sodden chancers? Or are we just like everybody else? Well, there's only one way to find out. Now, before I set off on my way around the country, I should remind you, I was once a walking, talking stereotype myself.
There I am, it's me, look, I'm on the telly. You know, God, does he really exist? I mean...
Yes, I was in Father Ted. I played the differently clever Father Dougal Maguire. And when we die, we're all going to go to heaven.
Yes. What about it?
Well, that's the bit I've trouble with. Having been a pretend priest, I know as well as anyone that Ireland is prone to all manner of unusual beliefs. So this time, I'm off to explore what Ireland believes in and why. Ireland is first and foremost a Celtic country, still partial to pre-Christian beliefs, which is why we're no strangers to the odd superstition. Try this one for size. If you kiss a magic stone in a castle in County Cork, you will be blessed forevermore with the gift of the gap. Written to attract the English visitor to Ireland, the Hall's guidebook loved this sort of thing. Few places in Ireland are more familiar to English ears than Blarney. The notoriety is attributable to the marvellous qualities of its famous stone. Now, Ireland is a small country, but I've managed to avoid this place my whole life. For me, it's always been a shameless exercise in paddywhackery, peddled to American tourists in big pants, pandering to every hokey notion they ever had about Ireland. But I might be wrong. The Hall's Victorian guidebooks helped make Blarney Castle one of Ireland's biggest tourist attractions. And it's all down to the magic power of the Blarney Stone. 20 million people have kissed this perilously positioned chunk of stone, including Mick Jagger, Winston Churchill, and would you believe it, Laurel and Hardy. And now it's my turn, in about an hour by the looks of things. There's loads of castles in Ireland, and there's loads of stories associated with every single castle, but this one has endured for hundreds of years. I don't...
Over 600 years, yeah. People believe in it. I suppose the belief that people in it, that it does help them, you know.
And that's the point. People want to believe in stuff like this. But how did the legend begin? Well, the lord of the castle once saved a woman from drowning, as you do.
That was next.
Needless to say, she was a witch, and she told him if he kissed the first stone he saw, he would be blessed with great eloquence. Because we Irish are reputed to be a bit chatty, the story does have a ludicrous plausibility about it. Do you think it's going to have some effect?
I'm going to talk a lot today.
Yeah?
Yeah, even more or less so than usual.
Yeah. Do you have ours behind? I kiss the bottom side. With your head. That's good.
Well, was it the experience you were dreaming of?
Change, man.
Sit down here, yeah?
Okay, just go back over the small bit.
So finally, it's my turn.
Hold the two bars.
The metal grill is handy. Before it was installed, countless would-be kissers slipped to their death.
Keep going down.
Lowering it down.
That's it, right in front of you.
Oh, that was
The soul of satisfaction.
Yeah, that was a smacker. Do you know, I'm speechless after that. I must have done it wrong. You could have this down as one of the world's most brilliant con tricks. But I think there might be something in it, given that they've been doing this for hundreds of years. You know, perhaps the stone does have magical properties, even though, according to the halls, they can't even be sure if that's the right stone. Here it is, the exact position among the ruins of the castle is also a matter of doubt. Like in those days, I think you could either kiss a stone at the top of the building or you could kiss one of these stones. Maybe there are some magical properties associated with them. People have been known to pocket loose chunks of stone in the hope they'll be blessed with perpetual luck. And why not? I'm assuming the current lord of the manor enjoys a chat. The same Anglo-Irish family have owned Blarney since the Halls came here nearly 200 years ago. For Sir Charles St. John Colthurst, 10th Baronet, Blarney is the well that never runs dry. Well, so far anyway. And you've had a few experiences over the last couple of years where people are taking stones from the building itself or from the grounds?
It's mainly from the grounds. We get jiffy bags appear in the post every now and again, and then you get occasionally anonymous letters saying, "Very sorry we took this stone. We have had no luck since we left Blarney. Please return this from whence it came." The most emotive one was one from America where I think it was a priest writing on behalf of one of his parishioners, where he said this individual had had no luck at all for the last 2 years, and the only connection they could think of was, had he done anything wrong? Well, he said, I'd taken a stone from the grounds of Blarney Castle.
The moral of the tale, don't push your luck. I'm not a superstitious person, really, I'm not. But why tempt fate? Outside the towns and cities, Ireland is a sparsely populated place. You can travel for miles without meeting anyone, which is why it's not unheard of for country folk to put their trust and belief in a matchmaker to find them a mate.
You going to mug me?
I'm not going to mug you.
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Thank you very much.
Download Veely now.
One of the last of his kind is to be found near the town of Ennis in County Clare. Immortalised here in the famous Matchmaker's Bar in Lisdoonvarna, Willie Daly is the most famous matchmaker in Ireland. But Willie himself operates from a remote farm in the middle of nowhere. Why you, Willie? What is it about yourself that can you read people's souls?
I suppose I'd have to say it's almost not that special. But all my life, I've had a great interest in people, and I've had a great interest in everybody being happy, not just a minority of people. Excuse me now a second. Hello?
Willie is on matchmaker duty day and night.
No, I'm getting you. I told
You
you
wouldn't
that
want to be in a hurry.
I know, but I'll text you on. I told you I'd get together with you, but I told you it would take a couple of days. I mean, I'm not a magician. Sorry for saying that. No,
They say that Willie is responsible for more than 100 marriages. Why do people need your services? Why can't they just go to a pub and, just mingle?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Now, that a certain amount of people, if they're quite shy when they're a bit young, they find that they don't mix as good as others. Now,
What is that book?
It's a matchmaking book that's belonging to my father, my grandfather and myself. So it's a lucky book. If you touch it with both hands, you'll be in love and married. Close your eyes for about 7 seconds, you'll be in love and married in 6 months. If you only want to be in love, you touch it with one hand and you close your eyes. Now, if you're already married, you can touch it twice and you recreate quite an amount of romance, something similar to your honeymoon in the earlier period.
Can I have a go with that?
You can. As I often said, I do, yeah.
Do you have to think of anything? I suppose I better think of my
about
wife.
love, sure. Being happy.
Yeah. Sure, I couldn't be any happier. What is it about the human race as a species? Like, in the animal kingdom, you know, you just go up to another animal at the watering hole and you just get down to business straight away.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
What is it about us that it's such a long-winded process?
To be honest with you, in Ireland it's a bit like that, but it's late in the night. When every woman looks like Pamela Anderson.
I'm just going to meet one of Willie's clients. Her name is Nikki, and she's looking for Willie to help her find love. Hello, Nikki.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oops,
Willie.
sorry. Wow, and who's this?
This is Milo.
Hello, Milo.
My fox red Labrador.
Ooh, lovely. Willie's clients come from all over the world. Nikki is from the north of England. She's scouring Ireland for a man.
So Willie's met me, seen me face to face. He's talked to me, so he's got an idea of what I want and who I am. So maybe he might get it right, because I haven't so far.
But have you had a date
I've had
with somebody?
2 dates through Willie.
And it just didn't work out?
No, you kind of like know. A girl knows. She gets a gut instinct. Well, I do anyway. I know straight away.
What are you looking for, or can you actually even define that?
I can't. That's the thing. It's like, I think if I knew what I was looking for, I'd just go out and find it. But because I don't know, I just keep thinking I'll know when I meet that right person.
What is it that Irish guys have to offer? I mean, you're obviously travelling around Ireland.
Yeah, well, last year I went around Scotland. I did the whole west coast of Scotland.
There's not one bloke in Scotland?
Yeah, I met one.
Oh, you did meet
Yeah,
one?
I had a little summer relationship. It was lovely. I thought, let's try Ireland. I've heard that the men have a twinkle in their eye.
Milo has just created quite an aroma?
Oh, has he?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Do you think that might be a drawback? Willie has set Nikki up for a date later this evening. I've suggested Stinky Milo stay at home. Some people still believe in the power of matchmakers. This bar in Ennistimon is matchmaker Willie Daly's HQ. And tonight, Willie is going to make an introduction. No, find a pint in Ennistimon. Willie tells me there are something like 28 men to every woman in this part of Ireland. Nikki has come to the right place. Possibly. Hello, Kevin. How are you? Local man Kevin Corrie is a painter and decorator. And so Willie has somebody lined up tonight. And you haven't met her before?
I haven't met her before.
No. So would you be apprehensive about that, or?
No, I wouldn't be apprehensive. I'd never be apprehensive with a woman because I know how to treat a woman.
Mm-hmm. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed. And good luck.
Pleasure meeting you.
Yeah.
Willie.
I brought you a nice man now. I brought you a lovely man now. This is Kevin.
Hi,
This is
Kevin.
Kevin.
Yes, nice to meet you.
I can't recommend him as being a very nice person, you know.
No, highly recommended.
And I know Nikki, Kevin.
You'll find that out in a while.
No, I've met Nikki. She travels with a dog, and that's. I think if a woman has a dog, it's always a nice recommendation. It means that they're capable of love, you know. I mean, sometimes, you know, if a woman loves her dog, she'd love people as well.
Do you have a dog yourself?
I don't actually. I'm not allowed it where I'm living. So, but I love animals. Love horse riding. Love anything.
Willie's lit the blue touch paper, but will sparks fly?
My freedom is out on the beach. And you can go out for a walk on the beach. Look at the sunset. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or go up in the mountain, have a look out.
I'm not so sure it's working out. I think they're both really lovely people. But, you know, Willie's the expert.
I think you have a lovely personality. And I only know you a couple of minutes, but you have a lovely personality.
Thank you.
No, fair play to Willie, he knows his stuff. And, you know.
I don't know, but what we can say is not what we can say.
And now, the verdict. Hello again. Well.
Wow.
Well.
My word.
Has Willie come up with the goods this time?
Yes and no. Well, he's a really nice man, Kevin.
Incredible manner,
but
lovely
one
manner.
of my biggest stipulations is that I always wanted a man to be taller than me. I don't want to look down on a man.
Well, Willie's quite a charming man. Touch of the shaman about him, touch of the guru. Many clearly believe in his magic powers, but I'm not sure Nicky did. It's time to leave Ennis Diamond's lonely hearts to their own devices. I wish them well. Mr. and Mrs. Hall married in 1824, without the help of Willie Daly. They spent the next 15 years touring Ireland, amassing material for their guidebooks. During that time, Ireland was very much part of the British Empire. As upright Protestants, the Halls were fascinated by the rituals and religious practices of a largely Catholic population. I've come north to Derry to see one of these rituals firsthand. If you spend any time in Ireland, sooner or later, you're going to end up popping your head inside a church. It's unavoidable. The Halls love this sort of thing. Their guidebook goes into raptures. The manners and customs of the Irish afford ample scope from which to draw both entertainment and information. The courtships, the weddings, the christenings, the wakes, the pilgrimages to holy wells, all provide material for the pencil of the artist and the pen of the writer. Well, there you are. That's the Halls for you. I'm here because it's St. Columba's Day. The Halls would have given their eye teeth to observe what's coming next. I've joined local writer and churchgoer Madeleine McCulley. And we're going to process to St. Columba's Well, a few hundred yards down the road. But how did St. Columba create a holy well? Is it something you can just do as a saint?
He struck the ground when there wasn't any water, and he struck the ground and this well sprung up. And it's still there, the purest of water. It's covered over now, but it's the purest of water.
This is where the ground was struck and the spring sprung. Today is the one day of the year when the lid is lifted on the sacred well. And now it's time to distribute the holy water. The people of Derry believe the water from this well still carries St. Columba's blessing from 1500 years ago. In the Middle Ages, holy water was so highly valued it had to be locked up overnight in case it was stolen. And it's still clearly in demand. Queues are forming and empty bottles are being produced everywhere you look. No shortage of belief here.
A lot of people would still believe that it has curative powers. In the way that you would bring holy water from Lourdes or from Dune or from other places, they would take the water home and it is blessed, so they say this is holy water.
Who am I to argue with the wisdom of crowds? You never know when you might need it. I'd like to just get a little bottle there. Fill that up there. Good stuff. For my mother. People wouldn't drink it though, would they?
Oh yeah, it's pure.
Thank you very much.
I mean, look at it.
Well, thank you.
Look at it, it's absolutely
no charge.
pure. Yeah. There you are. You didn't believe that you'd get that.
I didn't expect to get that.
Yeah.
I was a bit hesitant at first to take it because I'm not a superstitious person, really. Not a religious person, but you know, I wouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth either. No matter how much you try to run away from the church and from the dogma and from the doctrine and from the rituals, you know, it kind of informs your every waking thought as well. So everything you do, everything you say, every decision you made, you know, is in some way measured against what you learnt as a child. Holy water and holy wells connect us directly to our ancient pagan past. But there's something else about us physically that connects us directly to our Celtic ancestors. Something that is believed to be a part of our unique genetic makeup. And that is the colour of our hair. 2% of the world's population have red hair, yet 10% of the Irish people are redheads. Now, this iconic postcard, it sums up Ireland for a lot of people, stereotyping us as a bunch of fiery, temperamental peasants. I mean, look at that little girl. She's clearly about to kick that donkey. But are redheads more Irish than the rest of us? I think the answer lies over here. Cronan's Bar in Crosshaven, just outside Cork City, is a redhead pub. You don't have to have the right hair colour to drink here, but it helps. Cronan's is a temple for the follically flushed, a place where they gather nightly to share their belief that you're better off red. I've been told to look out for a red-haired lady called Jolene. Jolene? Jolene? But where do you start? Who's Jolene? Where's Jolene?
Oh,
Jolene.
How are you?
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, how are you?
Thanks for
How's
coming
it
to
going?
Crosshaven. It's Grania.
I can guess who you are.
The Queen.
Jolene Cronin and her brother Dennis started the Redhead Convention back in 2010 as a bit of a joke. But they were amazed to discover how many redheads actually wanted to get involved. They're determined to make red hair something to believe in, something that reflects and celebrates their Irishness. They even elect an annual king and queen.
And all I can remember seeing was just a sea of red hair people. That's the first vivid image that pops into my head when I talk.
And there's comfort in numbers.
Yes.
And beyond the crack, is there anything like important about redheads getting together?
Absolutely. Well, there's a huge sense of community and I suppose kind of solidarity. Like,
Why, are you different? Do you consider yourselves to be different? I mean, we obviously consider you to be very different. But do you consider
we are
yourselves
a little bit
to be
different, like, but in a good way, do you know?
Have you ever experienced anything negative? Like, have you ever, this thing we hear of gingerism? Have you?
Gingerism. I've heard a lot about gingerism.
Yeah.
I've heard so many stories from around the world of people who've been seriously targeted and bullied for being a redhead. And I think in Ireland it's not that much of a problem because we do have a significant population of redheads. Like,
Is it true that some sperm banks will not accept sperm from people with red hair?
Correct. That is fact.
That's a fact.
And they actually a few years ago stopped, point blank, no more redhead sperm. Not in demand. Nobody wanted it.
Happily, the sperm banks in question have since reversed their decision. So the great redheads of history like Boudica, Galileo and General Custer can all rest easy. Redheads are so special, they even have their own song. I'm thinking about dyeing my hair later.
I saw a redhead singing. I'm just waiting for a ginger man to hold me in a storm till the sun shines in the morn. I'll be waiting for a ginger to take my hand. Everybody now, here we go. We'll fly beneath the summer sky. We'll watch the flag for all the redheads fly. With sunscreen on our skin, we'll hear the session sing in Crosshaven, where the redhead flag is high.
It never occurred to me that people would define themselves in terms of hair colour. But these people clearly have shared experiences and shared genetic heritage that compel them to form a group. And despite rumours, they're not going to die out when they're having this much fun. In the Victorian guidebook to Ireland, the halls boast that few counties contain finer ruins than County Clare. Well, I'm looking for something a little more conventional than this. I'm on a modern-day pilgrimage with my trusty guide, Father John Kenny. I have been here before, but I don't remember the way.
Okay, well, I hope somebody knows the way. We'll let the guardian angels bring us along.
So, what are we doing today, Ted? Confessions and mass and things like that, I suppose?
Yes, Dougal, things like that.
It's great being a priest, isn't it, Ted? We filmed Father Ted 20 years ago in an old farmhouse here in County Clare. Question is, can I find it again after all this time?
This road looks interesting. We'll try it out anyway.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I shouldn't do that. No.
Or touch wood.
No.
You don't do any of those
touching
things,
wood
do you?
is good. That's the wood of the cross.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, touching wood goes back to Good Friday. But fingers crossed, yeah, and walking under ladders and all that stuff, that's silly.
Father John's wood touching has paid off. The house itself has become a bit of a shrine to more intrepid fans of the series. Sadly, Father Ted is no longer with us. Wow. Have you ever seen Father Ted?
Regularly. I suppose he's been a friend of mine since I lived in Achill Island in 1994.
So you were a parish priest on an island?
Well, I was a curate at that time, yeah.
Oh, well, like me?
I was on my own, so you were my buddies for a while on TV.
Now then, who's for tea?
Me, please, Mrs. Doyle. Tea! Feck!
Milk? Please, Father, thank you. Tea was always on tap at Father Ted's house.
And what do you say to a cup?
Feck off, cup!
Over 25 episodes, Father Ted mercilessly lampooned the priesthood. And my experience was that priests quickly tuned into it and quite liked it, anyone I ever met. Right up to Cardinal Basil Hume, even, believe it or not. I believe he was a fan. I mean, obviously, when I was growing up, the reverence for priests was so much greater, and the respect and, you know, the deference.
Yes, people would bless themselves in case the priest was carrying the sacrament, and you didn't greet him unless he greeted you because he was on a mission. That's not my way of being a priest.
I can even remember, like, it was during the first series of Father Ted when we were filming it down here in County Clare, and it was before anyone knew about the show. I was in a shoe shop, and I was just wandering around in the gear, and it was just at lunchtime or something. I was looking at shoes, and the shopkeeper came over to me and he just said, "Just take them, Father, whatever you want, they're yours."
I must borrow your collar. That never happened to me.
Well,
but I get you, yeah. There would have been, I suppose there's a next degree of that.
Do you get free shoes, is basically what I'm
I don't, but I get free coffees now and again because they kind of figure it'd be nice to the priest. He'd recommend this place for a reception.
Free shoes and free coffee. You can see the attraction. Father Ted's rather eccentric version of Catholicism is nothing compared to the reality of people's beliefs. Here, some people really do believe in miracles.
Again, we see this is a woman.
I've come to a secret location to see firsthand some of the most powerful and sought-after religious objects in the country. They are all connected with one particular saint. And because they're believed to have curative powers, they are lent out to the sick and dying. They are known, quite simply, as holy relics.
This is the mitten that would normally go on public display.
Nice. And that was to cover, to hide.
That was exactly his wounds would be continuously bleeding. So he got the stigmata in 1918, and he had that right up to a couple of days before he died. And just 2 days.
These mittens belong to Padre Pio, an Italian priest who allegedly suffered from stigmata, identical wounds to those received by Christ when his hands, wrists and feet were nailed to the cross. Many accused Padre Pio of being a fraud and a fantasist, faking his own wounds. But the Vatican made him a saint, and his blood-soaked mittens have since achieved currency as powerful holy relics. So this is the man himself?
That's the man himself, indeed,
wearing the mitten?
Wearing those mittens, yeah. He would have had to wear a few every day, obviously, with the blood leaking from the stigmata, in a sense. And you can see him just...
Named after the saint, Pio Enright is the keeper of Padre Pio's holy relics. They were given to him by his father Donal, who became friends with Padre Pio before his death in the 60s.
This is the large heart bandage, which would have the blood on it. You can see a lot of the blood of Padre Pio on it.
On his heart?
Yes, on his heart, where he had the stigmata as well. So
and how can you be sure these are authentic?
These were given to him directly by the friars in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you've never had any doubt yourself?
Yes, I would have, of course, especially when I was young. When faced with something that's indescribable or that really there is no solution at the end of the equation, you're always going to be sceptical. But there are some very clear cases that are actually even authenticated by professional people, oncologists, etc., where there is no rational explanation.
Pio has taken me to meet a young woman who was thought to be fatally injured some years ago. The fact that she survived, apparently through the intervention of holy relics, was held by some to be a miracle. John, Ardal, how are you? Sophie Finucane was living in Manchester at the time.
I didn't know that he had the gun inside the house, and he pulled the gun out and shot me at the side of my head. And the hospital was telling my dad and my mum and everybody that I was going to die.
And they're saying, look, say your goodbyes, say your goodbyes. That's all they kept saying. Say your goodbyes, she won't make it through today, she won't make it through tonight. That's all they ever said. They took her for a brain scan, and they told me that she was clinically brain dead, that there was no hope whatsoever. But that was the same day.
John was desperate. His daughter was in a coma and unlikely to survive. John tracked down Pio's father Donal. He begged him to bring Padre Pio's holy relics to Sophie's bedside, which Donal was happy to do.
And he came in and he gave the day praying with her. And, of course, he was telling us all these wonderful stories of all these miracles. Well, there's life, there's hope. And I said, Donal, what do you think, what do you think? And he said, I don't feel she's a dying child. I'll never forget them words the longest day I live.
So how long was Sophie in the coma then before she started to come around?
Sophie was in a coma for 10 days. And they were telling me that if she didn't die, that she'd be badly brain damaged. I think my sister and my brother was...
It was at this point that Sophie began to stir.
I have to make a circle around her, and I was holding her hand, and we were praying away. She started turning that ring, this very ring that I have on my finger, and she kept turning it and turning it. Donal said to me, I can tell you, he said, one thing for nothing, he said. No matter what they tell you inside in the hospital, he said, have no fear of her, he said, she's cured. Wow. He said, my work is done here, and he went out the door, and he went home. And
the two of you absolutely credit Donal and Padre Pio and the power
I wouldn't
of prayer.
doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it for 1 minute of my life.
Definitely, it was definitely Donal. And
you don't think it's possible that it was the medical profession?
They don't even think it was possible. I have a DVD somewhere here in the house of the head neurosurgeon saying there was nothing they done. They had no hope.
And you don't think it was just the power of your willpower?
Well, I think a small little bit, but...
She's very stubborn. Very, very stubborn.
But yeah, Donal, like if Donal wouldn't have been there,
So you're absolutely convinced it's a miracle?
Yeah.
Oh, everyone is, yeah. Yeah.
In their guidebook to Ireland, published in genteel London, the Halls were constantly harping on about how poor we were and how dirty our towns were as a consequence. But as you can see, we've pulled our socks up. Oh yes. And now being tidy has become a bit of an obsession. I've come to the Beara Peninsula in County Cork. But I could be visiting any town across Ireland, because over the summer months, a sort of religious mania takes hold, expressed in day-glow paint and coloured bunting. Well, it looks pretty, it looks safe. But don't get too relaxed. You'll get in big trouble if you so much as drop a sweet wrapper or a piece of chewing gum, because you see, people are fanatical about their towns. No matter how old or young you are, everyone must do their bit to keep Castletown Bear immaculately tidy. Should you not be in school? Do you like doing things for the town?
Yeah, it's nice to make it tidy and that.
Yeah. Like everyone else in Castletown Bear, the children are devoted to the annual Tidy Towns competition. Started by an image-conscious government back in 1958, almost 900 towns and villages throughout Ireland now compete for the accolade of the nation's tidiest town. Anonymous judges scour the streets, noting down their observations, good and bad. Here we go now, look. Just one thing, only one thing the judges were slightly critical of.
Yeah.
An overabundance of signage on certain poles.
Yeah.
One pole near the silver dollar bar has 7 brown signs pointing in various directions and could cause confusion.
We have an example everywhere. But so what do you do with the signs that are there?
Well, could you not just pull a few of those signs down?
And well, how are you going to find out where Kenmare is then?
Well, do we know where well, no one needs to know where Iries is.
Well, they do actually. If you're going to Iries, you do.
I suppose, yeah. Now look, the tourist information point, no one's ever going to see that sign down there.
I agree with you. Yeah.
The Barrow, there's too much choice. 13, 14, 15. There's 16 different signs on that pole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm confused now.
Well, I wouldn't blame you.
But I would think you would win the competition this year if you got rid of 7 of those signs. I leave Barry to consider my excellent suggestion and join the children, who are being rewarded for all their hard work in Izzy O'Donovan's ice cream parlour. So is this your favourite shop in town? Yeah, it's definitely mine as well. So what makes Castletown Bear so great, so special?
We're on the sea. The scenery is absolutely stunning. We've got gorgeous mountains around us as well, and there's a gorgeous beach over in Allihies, a big, lovely sandy beach.
And what about the people?
The people make it, you know. And it's a small town, yeah, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah. And you got the best ice cream in Cork,
Yay!
Which is a bit of a comfort.
Well, it's a bonus having a good sweet shop in the town.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's great. Yeah, definitely. The kids are
No one's
great.
ever going to leave the Bear Peninsula.
They go collecting along the streets.
Izzy's high-octane evangelism is typical of the proud Tidy Town dweller. In last year's Tidy Towns report, the people of Castletown Bear were congratulated on their efforts, but they didn't win the prize. The nearest village and biggest rival to Castletown Bear is Iries. Now, the cocky swagger of this place may be down to the fact that last time it beat Castletown Bear by 35 points. The village was commended on its litter control. But if you look closely, you can see there are no bins in Iries. You see, bins attract rubbish. But it looks like they don't have people either. And that's because the village stretches all the way down to the sea. And today is the day the beach gets its weekly clean-up, overseen by Emer O'Neill. It's a bit tough, Emer, isn't it? I mean, having to do, like, the town and having to do, like, here as well. That's a bit unfair.
Well, not really, no. I mean, this is part of the village as well, you know. A lot of people would use this place. You know, there's a lot of work, not just this, there's work put into the whole village itself.
You don't seem to have any bins in Iries.
No, that's true, yeah.
Is that deliberate?
It is, well, it has been. We just found that, you know, there was bins. I think it's a problem all over the country, really, that there's any public bins. They just seem to get abused, you know, being people dumping.
So it works not having bins?
It does, yeah, but there is a call for it sometimes, you know, and we are going to trial 1 or 2 of them in the public areas.
Just leave them out for an hour a day?
Yeah, just to see, but they'll have to be closely, you know, monitored and kind of kept an eye on. And we have one at the moment in the sensory garden.
A full-time sentry.
We'll have to.
Over the bin to make sure that people don't.
It'll be a job for somebody, yeah.
My tour through this binless village culminates with the sanitary equivalent of a visit to the Louvre. The proud chairman of the toilet committee is Hugh O'Neill. Hello, Hugh.
Hi, how are you?
Congratulations.
Welcome, Terry's.
You have the place spotless.
We do our best.
Well, can we have a look at the shining jewel of the town?
Well, you can, of course. I won't charge you.
Thanks. Well, it's the only public toilet in Ireland that smells beautiful.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd go that far.
Right, okay. Yeah, they are. We're kind of...
I could spend time in here.
Not too much, no.
No.
Just enough.
Wouldn't smell as beautiful if I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, lovely. Oh,
Yes, I know.
Little spoil there.
A cobweb, yeah. And I got rid of all them yesterday evening, but there are a few. There's still a few.
Back again.
Yeah, back again. Yeah.
I'd say it was the Castle and Bear people who planted that spider.
To upset us. Yeah. No, it's
It's really something.
Yeah.
When it comes to belief, the Halls, like many Victorians, were obsessed with the supernatural. Ireland has always had an abundance of ghost stories, so for the Halls it was rich pickings. The tale of the puka caught their imagination, a malignant fairy, half horse, half eagle, who tempts innocence onto its back. Carriganas Castle in County Cork is just the kind of place you might encounter a puka. Voices have supposedly been heard emanating from this 500-year-old building. This is what I think. I either read this or made it up. We're not the most rational people in the world. We don't subscribe to either-or theories here in this country. We're both and people. We hold competing thoughts in our head at the same time. We're quite comfortable with this idea of contradiction. It's a Celtic thing. So if somebody asked me, for example, do you believe in ghosts? I would say no, of course not. But that doesn't mean they're not there. Now, I'm about to join a meeting of a local group of ghost hunters.
Hello.
Matthew, Jackie and Paul are typical of a rise in the number of people worldwide who take the supernatural seriously. They claim to have photographed a real ghost.
That would be one of our most impressive.
It does look like the figure of a man.
Yeah, very clear.
Or a human anyway, of some sort.
It looks very modern, is it? You wouldn't think, it doesn't look like a monk.
Yeah, look, he could be flares, he could be wearing flares, he could be from the 60s. Well, you're absolutely convinced by the sounds of it that it is a person.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what it looks like anyway.
Would indicate that it would be, yeah.
The Cork Supernatural Society, as they styled themselves, used a vast array of Ghostbuster technology to record everything from invisible light to inaudible sounds. But to my eyes and ears, this is about something more fundamental. I mean, are you all believers?
I'm very sceptical, but we have evidence that would suggest there is something.
What other kind of evidence?
We're going to play some audio for you now.
Just listen.
Yeah, I'm recording again.
They heard a voice in the background.
Yeah, but...
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did, but is that not just someone's, like...
No, that's what we can't figure out.
Where were you when you
We were in
recorded that?
Balnakrieger Castle.
But, like, how can you be 100% sure it wasn't just someone, like, hiding behind a door, or...
We had the key for the place. That was the voice we picked up.
You see, like, I suppose the difficulty I have is that why don't they just speak clearer? Nobody has the answer to that one. To prevent me asking more embarrassing questions, someone has thrust an electronic gizmo into my hand. It's reading, it's detecting something, some EMF, some electromagnetic waves. I've been told to put the hardware down. It's time for the main event. We're going to speak directly to the other world.
Okay, is there anyone here with us tonight that would like to make contact with us?
If there is anybody here that would like to make contact with us, there's a recorder with a little red light just there on the window. If you just speak into that, it won't hurt you.
We've come here as your friends. We mean you no harm. Can you come and say hello to us? Tell us your name.
Can you tell us what year you're from? When did you live here?
This could take a little while.
Can you touch one of the people here that are present? Touch them somewhere. Just so that we know that you can hear us.
If there's anyone here with us tonight, could you make a bang sound for us? Could we hear your footsteps? You'll have to do it as loud as possible so we know it's you.
Do ghosts exist? No, I don't think so. The Halls wouldn't be surprised at all by the antics of our Ghostbusters. Their guidebook was full of excitedly recounted stories of mischievous fairies and unquiet spirits. The difference is, some of us believe we've actually seen them. We're irrational people, but with a healthy respect for the irrational. You know, we're still open to belief in God and ghosts and even miracles. Now, this could be due to our history, our deep-rooted Catholicism, or perhaps our Celtic heritage. Or it might just be our very vivid imaginations. Hello, my name is Ardal. It is a real name, and I'm a real person. And this is Ireland, a real place, as well as an imaginary one. There are just a few things about my country I could do without. But mostly, I love it. To help me separate the myth from the reality, I'm going to consult this old guidebook to Ireland. It was written by the formidable Mr. and Mrs. Hall, an Anglo-Irish couple who condescended their way around the country, examining every facet of Irish life for better or for worse. Idle, reckless, unprincipled. It was the drink, James, it was the drink. Their observations of Ireland and the Irish took root in the minds of their English readers. But was there any merit in them? Are we really a bunch of superstitious, God-fearing, whiskey-sodden chancers? Or are we just like everybody else? Well, there's only one way to find out. This time, I'm looking into what makes the Irish so distinctly, well, Irish. In a globalized world, can a small country hold on to a strong national identity? And if so, what's ours? I'm starting off in a small village in County Clare to meet who some say are the original indigenous people of Ireland, predating the Normans, Vikings, even the Celts. Traditionally, they toured the country in their colourful caravans, but nowadays you're more likely to find Irish travellers in settled communities like these. Could they shed any light on what defines the Irish? And do you buy and sell the horses as well?
We do, yeah.
Or do you just...
We do on the horses. Yeah, we swap them with more travellers.
What you want, mate?
This is home to a large extended family, and the head of the family is Michael Mongan. Yeah. He's a daredevil, that fella. Michael and his wife Mary Ellen have 14 children and 67 grandchildren. And there's great-grandchildren as well. They've had to get used to living in houses like settled people do. But home was once wherever they pulled in for the night. Yeah. And do you miss that life at all?
I would miss it. It was hard, but still we liked it, you know what I mean?
And what was it that you liked about it, though?
We were happy about that kind of a life. We could keep horses and dogs. And...
Well, everyone was friends and we were kind of free, like. Everyone was travelling, there was no one in houses or sites or anything like that, you know, maybe everyone was as free as a bird.
The travellers always used to move, you know what I mean?
So you liked that life, just going from town to town?
It was nice sometimes.
Yeah.
It was nice sometimes. Yeah.
I suppose on a summer night it was...
It was nice in the summertime, yeah. Lovely in the summer.
And did you have a plan of where you would go, or did you just go wherever your nose took you?
No plans, no.
I mean, do you consider yourself different from the settled people?
Yeah, we do things different than the settled people. We're different altogether.
Yeah.
We talk different. The settled people.
See, settled people would never do what travellers do, you know?
Yeah.
They wouldn't light a fire like that now, see that? But we were reared like that now.
Yeah.
would find it like that in the winter time.
Yeah. You were saying that the language is different. In what way is the language different?
Well, travellers knew can now, what settled people never knew.
Can't.
Can't. Yeah.
Now, when you be calling a woman, right, we'd call her a bure.
A bure?
In Kent.
Right.
You call a girdle.
Is that a friendly term?
That's a woman now.
Friendly, yeah.
And a girdle, you call her a lecking.
A lecking. Mary Ellen has invited me inside her house. This is a rare privilege indeed. Is there a lot of coming and going all the time in the?
Yes, this house is never empty.
Because it's all your immediate family in the other houses.
Yes.
Yeah. Mary Ellen's living room reveals a lot about the traveller's way of life. Nice pictures of horses up there.
This is our foal of a horse.
It's lovely and cosy. Is this your great-grandchild here?
No, that's middle grandchild.
Well, that's your grandchild.
Oh, that's the baby.
What's the baby?
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
That's the baby.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know his name. Jerry. No, yeah.
What's his name?
He's Jerry. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
He's not Spider-Man. He's Jerry.
That's a nice name for a boy. Spider-Man, isn't it? On the walls are photos of Michael and Mary Ellen when their children were young. In 1963, a government initiative tried to force travellers like the Mongans to leave their caravans behind for good. You can see the pride the young couple had in who they were and where they'd come from. Now, a great-grandmother, Mary Ellen is quite keen to explain to me the traditional way in which she's dressed in the photo.
That's the way all travelling women used to dress like this now. Just only one thing missing now is the basket.
Oh, yeah.
They'd have a basket in their arm.
And what would be in the basket?
Well, they might have it full of flowers, selling flowers and make themselves like those up here now. A few flowers I made myself.
Oh, you made those yourself?
Yeah.
Very nice.
But that's all gone as well now. All that's finished and gone, you know. Yeah.
For many, the nomadic life of the travellers might be over, but they managed to hold on to many of their old ways, including the sulky carts they use for their hair-raising races. Do you think the community will survive, the travelling community? Like, do you think the customs and traditions will be kind of maintained?
I'd say that the traveller's life is...
It's all dying out.
There won't be no such thing as traveller's in another 30 years.
You really think that?
Yeah.
If that's true, it'll be a sad day for Michael and the Mongans. These travellers talk of their love and understanding of their animals, the affection they have for the countryside they once roamed, and for what they saw as the freedom they used to have. It's all too easy to romanticise travellers, or indeed vilify them. But what we all have in common is a deep commitment to family and horses. It's insane to try and sum up a whole country or something as fickle as a people. That's just folly. But there definitely seems to be a strong sense of identity here. A lot of symbols and so forth that people broadly share. Now, whether these are real and rooted in our history or manufactured, that's open to debate. But one thing for sure is, people in this country, they're absolutely preoccupied with what it means to be Irish. It's March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. It's instantly recognisable as the day when the Irish revel in their Irishness. It's celebrated in more countries around the world than any other national holiday. It's a day when everyone, the world over, is encouraged to wear the green, a colour adopted by revolutionaries in the late 18th century when they attached green ribbons and shamrocks to their clothes. The Ireland I grew up in has been totally transformed. For centuries, we were a nation of emigrants. At least 70 million people around the world have Irish ancestors. But in the economic boom of the late 1990s, all that changed. People started to come here to settle. In only one generation, Ireland went from a monoculture to a multicultural society. Elliot and his family moved from Nigeria 15 years ago. Today, he's one of the best Irish dancers in the country. Okay, you go on ahead. I'll follow you in. I have to be honest, I used to scoff at Irish dancing when I was younger and when I was older. For me, it was always a little bit too wholesome, a little bit old-fashioned and de-sexified, if that's a word. I was more of a head-banging along to Black Sabbath sort of guy. But for Elliot here, this is a real crash course in Irish culture. He's going in at the deep end. Irish dancing was one of the art forms invented in the late 19th century to revitalise Irish culture. As Elliot and his friend Emily demonstrate, it's all about a controlled and rigid upper body and quick, precise movements of feet and legs. Fantastic. I know you're a good footballer and all your brothers play football. Why did you pick dancing?
I found out that was my talent, and that's what I loved. I discovered it on YouTube, and I found out that I loved doing that more than football. So then I kept on working towards it, and then I reached my goal.
Did you practice on your own in front of the mirror?
Yeah.
And so you knew some of the steps before you actually got lessons?
Yeah.
And do you do competitions?
Yeah.
All over Ireland?
All over the world.
All over the world?
Yeah.
Really? When I was younger, boys weren't allowed to dance with girls a lot of the time. So you'd end up dancing with chairs. That was no fun. So just a big bunch of boys in a room dancing around chairs. I fell in love with a chair once. Needless to say, the chair found somebody else. And that was the end of my dancing career. Fact is, these days Irish dance is scarily competitive. I wouldn't have stood a chance. Naturally enough, the halls have an opinion on Irish dancing. Here we go. The best idea we can give of it is that it consists in striking the ground very rapidly with the heel and the toe, or with the toes of each foot alternately. A stranger not hearing the music and seeing only the dancer would be likely to imagine he was killing a rat. How dare they? They're not really appreciating the nuances. I'm on the lookout for what makes the Irish unique or different. I suppose one of the things that have shaped us are the repeated invasions by other people and the internal conflicts we've experienced as a result. Up until about a century ago, Ireland was part of the United Kingdom. Now I'm in Dublin, the centre of a rebellion in 1916 that led eventually to Irish independence. After independence, the country was transformed radically. Well, they painted the red postboxes green. Although it doesn't look like it, this postbox is actually green. But it has been temporarily painted red in order for it to be painted green again. Why, I hear you ask? Good question. Well, to commemorate those heady days of 1916, of course. Hello, Eamon. And now, Eamon Dolan and I are going to restore it to its rightful colour.
That's for you. OK, so let's go on and get you all suited up, OK?
Right. I'm not allowed near a can of paint until I'm wearing overalls.
I know.
Keep it warm, yeah. It's obviously a very dangerous mission. Cool. You feel like you have to walk like this when you're in.
All right, yeah. OK, have you painted before? Of course you have.
Not really, not really.
Well, just
Eamon is a professional postbox painter, and there's a certain technique I have to master.
You're just going like that.
Yeah.
You're going with the curvature of the box.
Going with the curvature of the box.
Like that.
Like, why was it so important that we painted these green after independence?
Well, I think myself now, personally speaking, you know, it's just sort of to eradicate the whole British, the red of Britain, you know. We wanted to move on, have our own identity. We're amazing history.
Do you think we're different than the British, say? I mean,
well, they have their own history as well, to be honest with you. I mean, I love British history as well, to be quite honest with you.
But what makes us, like, different? Because we're very close neighbours.
We're a small country, but we're recognised all over the world.
Yeah.
Isn't that it? You know, a nation our size, under 5 million.
Yeah.
But we're recognised all over the world.
Like, we always tried to be different to England. I think that's the main thing when we got independence, and in the decades before independence, I think like we had to invent a new Ireland that was very different to England. I think that was the main thing. Did you ever hear it said that green is a very restful colour?
No.
It's supposed to be, yeah.
But I can understand that.
Yeah, it literally, physically, is supposed to make you relax.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Apparently, it actually even it reduces your allergy symptoms. Yeah, it stimulates the pituitary gland.
Okay.
Which relaxes the muscles, and it reduces your allergy symptoms.
But I find, to be honest with you, I find painting my boxes very, very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah. Either way, it is very enjoyable. I also do feel a little bit of a swelling of pride myself, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like, this is my contribution to Irish freedom.
No,
100 years too late, but there you go. Over the centuries, when it comes to protest, we can be quite subtle and to the point. From the simple symbolism of changing the colour of a postbox to just banging a big drum. Unique to Ulster, the Lambeg drum is allegedly the loudest folk instrument in the world. I can believe that. It mostly features in Protestant orange parades as a battle drum. On the border between the north and south, there's a brand new drumming tradition in the making. I'm being taken to meet some members of a community of a dozen or more Irish Japanese who have settled within a few miles of Derry. How are you? You're the boss.
Under the guidance of Fiona Umetsu, they've taken up Japanese taiko drumming.
Made them into a body.
That's cowhide, is it?
Yep.
Are you allowed to touch this?
Oh God, I sure.
You don't get bad luck.
There's something awful good about taiko. There really is. I kind of think of it as a force for good, and it brings people together, and it brings out the best in people, and it brings out a lot of really creative energy.
I mean, that begs the question. I mean, you're obviously from Derry, and you lived through the Troubles. In fact, well, you probably escaped from the Troubles by going to Japan to some extent. But do you think the taiko drumming has some sort of a role to play in the sense that it's non-sectarian?
Irish drums, unfortunately, have sort of become segregated, which is such a shame. So, you know, we do kind of refer to them sometimes as the non-denominational drums. It is something new that is kind of still being developed.
It's like you're pioneering a new tradition. I mean, it could take off as the Japanese Irish community grows.
That's the plan. It's
stuff.
like world domination through taiko.
Ich, ni, sorry!
There's something heartening about these Irish Japanese kids banging out a new identity for themselves.
Wow, that was amazing. Well done. Excellent.
Thank you very much. You want to have a go?
I don't know. I don't want to ruin it. It's too special.
You won't ruin it. We'll break you in gently.
Okay.
Okay, and you're going to bring your right hand down, and then your left hand
It's like
down.
your goalkeeping stance. Or the set of penalty, okay.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Nothing's going to get past you.
Okay,
You
so
ready? Set up. Up. Don't be scared, but set up. Okay, and then you're going to bring your left hand down. You're kind of bringing it down like a backhand.
Okay.
Set up. Set up. Hop. 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 Hey. Hop. 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 got it, you said it.
No problem. Okay, so maybe rhythm's not my thing. Unlike these guys, who are clearly marching to the beat of a very different drum. In a country where for so long religion divided the people, when it came to the issue of marriage equality, the people came together. One of the biggest advocates for gay rights in Ireland is Rory O'Neill. Rory grew up in a remote town in the west of Ireland. He created Ireland's preeminent drag queen, Panty Bliss, and together they opened Dublin's most famous LGBT venue, Panty Bar, in 2007.
Because I'm lucky because I can leave here and it looks...
I asked Rory what it was like to be gay in Ireland back in the old days.
When I was growing up, you know, in the 70s and 80s, I always felt that sort of queer people weren't really considered Irish. They might be sort of a bit Protestant English or something, do you know what I mean? They were heathens, you know, and that your Irishness was being called into question. And I sort of had this funny accent that, you know, so people would sort of think, where are you from? You know, there was that sort of quality. And my queerness did the same thing. They were like, I always felt that there was no space for a queer Irish person. Like, just for example...
In 2015, following much heated debate around the country, championed by people like Rory, Ireland held a nationwide referendum on marriage equality. 62% voted yes. Ireland, perhaps surprisingly, found itself at the vanguard of social change when it became the first nation in the world to vote in a referendum for same-sex marriage.
If you walk around Dublin now, you do see, you know, gay and lesbian couples holding hands, which is something you almost never saw before. And if you did, you know, they were a pretty brave, you know, bolshy couple. And I think after the referendum, the gay community here felt secure in their place. And they felt secure in their place as Irish people. Because I sort of have always felt myself, like sometimes people describe me, say, as a gay activist, but I always say, well, that's not really exactly what I was about. What I was about was trying to expand the definition of Irishness. And I feel that the referendum finally said, actually, yes, you're totally Irish, you know, and that's what it sort of felt like to me.
Just 6 months on from the referendum, over 400 couples had tied the knot. Our sense of identity, it's not cast in stone. We're open to change, and that can only be a good thing. I'm on a journey to find out what makes the Irish in any way unique. A lot of what we now think of as being Irish was actually forged in defiance of invading forces trying to change us. This is Kilkenny. Following the Anglo-Norman invasion nearly 1,000 years ago, the native Irish population were accused of corrupting the colonisers with their ways and wiles, making them more Irish than the Irish themselves, apparently. As a result, a whole raft of laws were passed to stop the widespread adoption of Irishness and Irish culture. The halls detail some of these laws with a certain relish, I feel. That marriage with the Irish was treason, that the use of Irish names, apparel or language be punished with forfeiture of lands or imprisonment. This was the first real attempt to wipe out Irish culture, including the language. No Englishman was to entertain any of their minstrels, rhymers or news tellers. That was me out of a job. You couldn't have your linen dyed in saffron. Nothing too colourful for the English settlers. That the English should not permit the Irish to graze upon their land. They even said that hurling, the old Irish game, should be banned. And they complained about the great evils and maims that were associated with hurling at the time. More than 7 centuries later, the Irish revived hurling with a vengeance. Thought to be thousands of years old, this fast-moving and some would say extremely dangerous sport was vastly different to any other sport in the United Kingdom at the time, and that was the whole point. Now, Kilkenny is home to one of the top teams in the country. Players use a wooden stick called a hurley to hit a small ball called a sliotar, which can be caught in the hand and carried for not more than 4 steps. The ball can travel at 100 miles an hour. That's the dangerous bit. And these lads are just 14. They dream of the ultimate honour to represent their county. But things aren't going so well.
Look, it's not intense enough, right? It's not typical Kilkenny hurling. It's too tippy-tappy. Take control of the territory you're hurling in. Mark it out in your head, this is my area, and any ball comes in here, I'm taking it. It's not intense enough, lads. You know it's not good enough. It's not near the level that's required. Deal with it.
Well, look, I heard what they said. I thought you were all brilliant. So, but then I'm not coaching you.
Ramp it up, let's go, come on. Quickly.
To get anywhere as a hurler, you need to be brave and super fit and have lightning fast reflexes. There's nothing like it. Ned Quinn is chairman of the county team. So it really doesn't bear any resemblance to any other game, does it?
No.
And what is uniquely Irish about hurling? I mean, in terms of its character?
The players playing have very little concerned about being injured or anything. That there's a lot of physical contact in it. And I think it appeals to the Irish psyche. There's an element of danger in a game of hurling all the time.
And there's no feigning injuries?
No.
No diving?
No. If you want to be despised in the GAA, you go down and pretend you're injured. You actually get up and pretend you're not injured. You don't give in to the other fella to say that he had injured you.
Selfless bravery? Yeah, perhaps that's the quintessence of the Irish psyche. No one is more passionate about this game than the Irish mammies, another great Gaelic archetype. Can I just ask you all, like, do you actually want to be here, or do you have to be here?
Well, I want to be here.
I
love
want
it.
to be
And I
here.
want to be here as well.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
We don't go on holidays in the summertime when the hurling season
You
is
plan
on.
your holiday around the championship or whatever is going on.
Would you not be worried at all? I mean, it's clearly like a dangerous game in some ways. I mean, they do wear helmets.
Yeah.
That's what they grew up with. So really, I suppose we don't know any difference.
Yeah.
They don't
get
really.
many
They
injuries. They don't.
I have to say, none of mine ever had anything serious. Sorry, a few bruises here and there, but nothing major. No broken bones.
Bruised
or
egos,
anything from-
I'd imagine.
Oh, plenty bruised egos.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
plenty over the years. But you know, it's all part of life and growing up, and I think it teaches them, really.
They say that hurling is the fastest field game in the world. But there's something that moves even faster across the Irish grass. Quite simply, horses are synonymous with the Irish. Whether it's the travellers with their piebald horses and homemade carts, or the thoroughbreds of elite racing, we Irish do love a horse. Even the Halls noticed it. They tell the story about a Mr. Sullivan, a real-life horse whisperer, who is able to tame the wildest of horses by simply whispering in their ear. Buyers come from all over the globe to invest in our bloodstock, but their pockets need to be well lined. The highest price paid for a thoroughbred was £12 million. I'm no horsey man, I don't even have a wax jacket, but I might as well have a flutter. I backed a British horse, Blood Moon, just like the name. This meeting at Naas Racecourse near Dublin is a typical everyday event in Ireland. There are more racetracks per head of population here than in any other country in the world. Now, I've come here not to make my fortune, although that'd be nice. I'm here to find out what it is about Ireland and the Irish that breeds arguably the best racehorses around. I've no idea which one was Blood Moon or what happened to him. Oh, I haven't a clue what I'm doing. But why are we Irish so good at breeding winners?
It's the one pursuit I feel that Ireland can stand up and say, right, we are a world leader here. Bar none. We can go around the world and we are number one.
Tom Ryan is the racecourse manager.
I've done a good bit of travelling through the world. I spent a bit of time in America on the breeding side of things, you know. And anywhere you'll see a congregation of horses, mostly race horses, you'll see an Irishman somewhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how far away it is. And
how did we get to that position?
The number one thing I believe was the climate. Really? You know, you can grow the grass, keeps the horses sound and let them prosper and grow, you know, and breed well.
You're saying an Irish horse is a happier horse than a horse anywhere
It's climate.
else.
I mean, it's cool. There's no extremes. You know, it's all about the grass in my book, really.
On the inside, 2 lengths too high.
Bocca Bacchiata, that's mine.
Getting around the round towards the 4 mark now.
Another loser. Bocca Bacchiata, stupid name, stupid horse.
The most famous person I ever hired a pair of binoculars to, besides yourself, was Jimmy Carter.
The former US president?
Yeah, and he was a really nice man. He hired him, went off. Apparently he likes his horses. But that was, I didn't ask him for ID or to sign anything. You know, I took him on face value.
That's fairly incredible. Anyway, thanks a million, George. Okay.
Right, Ireland. Cheers, nice to meet you.
Thank you, That's better. Now I can't go wrong. Ah yes, the man in the blue blazer is one of Ireland's greatest trainers. William McCreary trains the horses of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, one of the wealthiest men in the world.
He has 10 stud farms here.
Yeah.
Most of all his best progeny are raised and grazed here, you know?
But why Ireland? Like, what's so special about Ireland or Irish
we have the
trainers
best,
like yourself?
Well, we have the best ground here, the best soil type here.
Yeah.
A lot, like, unbeknownst to yourself, a lot of Irish people have horses in their blood.
Yeah.
And a lot of Irish people, their first time touching a horse, they touch them very gently.
Yeah.
Foreigners don't, you know? We just have it in our blood that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
You'd have it, and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a foreigner will touch a horse and he'll slap them.
Yeah, or they'll be afraid of horses.
Yes,
either.
an Irish lad will pat it.
Yeah.
It's probably because we all go back to a caravan at some stage.
Yeah. McCreary is here to see his horse run. But as always, success is down to both the horse and the jockey who rides him. And is this a horse that you'd have high hopes for?
Yeah, I do, yeah. We'll train him at home to follow a horse and then come out and put on the turbo, hopefully the turbo, you know.
You brought the turbo?
Well, we brought the turbo, but we don't know if the jockey can engage it, you know, Billy Lee. So he's ridden him twice last year, so he knows
he knows them well, yeah. Now, they're out there somewhere. Ah, there they are.
There's the Major General, stellar masses just behind them, being followed by Aridity.
Aridity is William McCreary's horse. But I sense things aren't going very well.
Yeah, and he's not giving him a hard race either.
These binoculars are fantastic.
That's Dermot Weld wins it again.
So what was the issue there?
Well, I hope the ground. You know, held him up because he wasn't too hardened.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And he turned in there in a lovely position, but I hope the ground just collared him. You know.
Yeah. Yes, I also hope the ground was to blame for the jockey's sake. Like hurling, it's a fiercely competitive sport. McCreary believes that we Irish are able to coax our horses into winning because we've acquired a special affinity with them. Although I'm not sure it's something I've quite achieved yet. It's one thing the Halls were right about. We are half human, half horse. I'm in Dublin, following in the footsteps of Mr. and Mrs. Hall, who travelled the country back in the 1840s. More than anything, it was the peculiarities of Irish culture and identity that they were most keen on. Like the Victorian countrymen, they associated Irish cuisine with the potato. For them, it was the root of our misfortune. They reckon the accursed root is, if not the originator, the sustainer of Irish poverty and wretchedness. Well, I'm going to find out if this accursed root has any place on Irish tables today. This is Gallagher's Boxty House. modern Ireland's temple to the humble spud. Chef Pádraig Ó Gallagher is taking me back to how the potato was first served in Ireland.
Some lumpers cooked, huh?
This is the way the families would have had them.
Yeah. Or even in a wooden bowl, strained out, you know. If you had an acre, you could grow enough for a family of 6, eating 12 pounds of potatoes a day, like 5 kilos of potatoes a day, every day. Breakfast potatoes, lunch potatoes.
3 meals a day of potatoes.
Potatoes, that was it. And that's all they had to eat. But, you know, they would have eaten these with the centre raw.
So they would just parboil them?
Parboil them, yeah.
So the outer half would be kind of fluffy and...
Yeah, and the inside would have been raw. So
what was the thinking?
Second digestion, when they're working the field, they would have said that if the potato was cooked too much, they wouldn't be able to do a day's work. Yeah. And that was it. So they get an hour and a half or 2 hours later, they get a satiated feeling from the fact that the raw potato was mixing with their juice in the stomach or whatever. I haven't experimented that one yet, you know.
200 years ago, poverty was rife in Ireland. The potato was about the only food people ate. Then the potato blight hit, destroying the nation's crops and resulting in famine. 1 million people starved to death, and at least 1 million more were forced to emigrate.
Was that their fault? You know, there's an opinion that, like, you know, they should have tried to grow something else. Why couldn't they grow something else?
Because, first of all, okay, the potato, you just need to grow the potato. You don't need to take it to the mill. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pay a miller to mill it, so it's not like a grain. So you just grow it, and you grow it again. You keep some of these for next year. You just put them in the soil, and they grow again next year. Very simple. And the potato gave them everything they needed. So I suppose the question would be, why would you grow anything else? You know? They come out around October.
Pádraig has resurrected the potato from its accursed past. It's now the raw ingredient of 1,001 gastronomic creations, built around the traditional Irish boxty, or potato pancake.
Wow! This is your boxty pancake, made of grated raw potato, cooked mashed potato, and we use a gluten-free flour in it. And these are, have you tasted these?
They're gorgeous.
It's a pancake, thinly sliced and deep fat fried.
Oh my God.
Boxty pancake. So again, you have about 70% potato in there.
Yeah.
And that's just
They are nicer than chips. They're nicer than your regular skinny fries.
This is the loaf. It's the boxty loaf, boxty bread.
Potato bread. Yeah.
Potato bread, 60%, 70% potato in it. Look at my fingers. Oh my God, mess here. That's in total States cheese.
Pádraig's food was so good, I found it increasingly difficult to focus on what he was saying.
I feel like a bit of a savage so early in the day, but
and again,
990 potato dishes later, we finally ended up with something to drink.
I think we should have a wee drop of poitin.
Just to round it all off.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Suppose you know what poitin's made from, do you?
There would be a potato content.
I think there might be indeed. Creature, they call it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The original.
A drop of the creature. Well, no, this is completely legal.
Yeah.
Sláinte.
Now, people, this innocent-looking liquid is to be consumed with great care. It is poitin, potato whiskey, and it's probably the most wicked thing you can do with a spud.
It tastes great.
Alas, I can't possibly say no, especially in the presence of a connoisseur.
Yeah, there's a warming quality to that.
When the Halls were travelling around Ireland in the 1840s, the pub, or shebeen, was the focal point of most communities, with 10 million gallons of whiskey and poitin consumed annually.
The Halls were very concerned about our drinking habits, especially the illicit liquor, poitin. They described it as the shame and the bane of Ireland, and were huge fans of the temperance movement at the time. But we've always been a bit ambivalent about the drink here. We resent the stereotyping, of course we do, but we sometimes revel in the reputation. And for every hardened drinker, you'll find people who don't drink at all. And I'm about to speak to one of those guys now. He just happens to own his own distillery.
For centuries, poitin was illegal and distilled in secret using primitive techniques. Ecklinville Distillery is on the eastern shores of Strangford Lough. It's the first official distillery in Northern Ireland in over 125 years, and it makes legal poitin.
It's like a whiskey-producing saxophone. That's what that looks like.
Chief distiller is Shane Braniff.
This sounds like one of the greatest jobs in the world.
In truth, I have never drank. I've never drank alcohol.
But surely as a distiller you must taste it.
As a distiller, I would taste the spirit coming off the still. Tasting is very, very different to drinking.
Shane is so proud of his tasting ability, he's considering insuring his own tongue.
So we'll go down here now and we'll head down and have a look at the spirit coming off.
I want to try some of this notorious brew myself, but Shane has warned me to be careful. I'm going to be sampling almost pure alcohol.
So I'll just get you a little sample here.
At this stage.
Oh, it's now this is only a rough guide here, but you know what? It's coming off just above 85 ABV, so it's strong now. Don't be knocking this back. So the spirit that's coming off here now should be very, very sweet, very, very pure, and it should be full of character and flavour. So just on the edge of your tongue or on your lips, don't drink it.
Purely in the interest of scientific research. No, really. I actually think my tongue melted. I seriously, will you have a look?
In spite of, or maybe because of, its former illegality, poitin has become one of Ireland's most famous spirits. The secret recipe for this particular brand was formulated by David Mulligan and Cara Humphreys.
This book I've been reading, though, The Halls, you know, they were very down on it. They were not like you guys. They just thought that kind of that home distilled stuff was the bane of Irish life, that it was the cause of every misery, every misfortune going. Are people still distilling it?
Like, oh, yeah, plenty of people still distilling it, yeah, and it's really passed down generation to generation how they do it, you know. But our main research was just collecting as many as we could, you know, and drinking as many as we could.
How do you find these people?
They find you, funnily enough, once you put the word out, you know. Everybody's got a story in Ireland, everybody knows somebody. You'll never meet the guy who made it. No one will ever admit to making it, but they can get you a bottle fairly handy.
It usually comes in an old lemonade bottle.
Lemonade or an old whiskey bottle, an old wine bottle.
It was definitely a labour of love in the beginning. A lot of experiments, a lot of distilling, and
a lot of long days.
A lot of potato
not hanging out with Shane.
Yeah. What other purposes were people using poitin for?
Oh God, there's 101 different uses you could use it for. You still get a lot of county footballers using it, rubbing it into their muscles and stuff when they've cramps. Yeah,
that's a genuine thing.
Yeah, and then the animal thing, I've heard that they. A horse that was so sick they had to put it down and they didn't want to shoot it, so they gave it a bucket of poitin, and the thing ended up living for another 2 years.
And you don't drink at all?
No.
Which is kind of bizarre for somebody who's peddling.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I find it hard to sleep at night, but I love to see people drinking, you know. I mean, I really, really do.
You wouldn't be living in this house otherwise.
Fortified on poitin, I've travelled to the opposite end of the country to complete my investigations into Irish identity. I'm being escorted to one of the most mysterious places in all of Ireland.
And I'd just like to show you the entrance right over here.
Looks like I'm about to enter another dimension, with only the vaguest notion of what to expect.
And I'll let you experience that by yourself now.
You're not going to leave me here on my own. Is this a trick?
This was once the site of a souterrain, an ancient underground passage, a secret tunnel for entering or leaving a hidden fortress. And this is where the secret souterrain rejoins the world above. This is the Sky Crater, an astonishing modern artwork built on the site of an ancient ring fort. It's a little bit, I'm a little bit scared because it does look like I'm about to be ritually sacrificed. The Sky Crater was designed by American artist James Turrell. Headrest there. What's the point of it? Well, it's an observatory, a place to observe the universe out there and the universe within oneself. I remember as a kid, you'd often lie in a park and you'd look at the sky. You know, there's something to be said for that, I think. So, I mean, this forces you to do that because that's all there is to do in this crater. So I think that's kind of one of the ideas that maybe the artist had, is that he gets you to stop and think and contemplate and maybe reflect on the meaning of life. What you see is the green hills, the blue sky and the white clouds. This view of Ireland that I'm looking at now is exactly the same one the Celts saw and the Vikings saw and the Normans and the English saw. In that sense, the country hasn't really changed at all. You might be able to get the same effect by just putting one of those dog flea collars over your head. So if you can't come here, just lie in your garden with a flea collar like that. Hello, my name is Ardal. It is a real name, and I'm a real person. And this is Ireland, a real place, as well as an imaginary one. There are just a few things about my country I could do without. But mostly, I love it. To help me separate the myth from the reality, I'm going to consult this old guidebook to Ireland. It was written by the formidable Mr. and Mrs. Hall, an Anglo-Irish couple who condescended their way around the country, examining every facet of Irish life for better or for worse. Idle, reckless, unprincipled. It was the drink, James, it was the drink. Their observations of Ireland and the Irish took root in the minds of their English readers. But was there any merit in them? Are we really a bunch of superstitious, God-fearing, whiskey-sodden chancers? Or are we just like everybody else? Well, there's only one way to find out. If there is such a place as the end of the world, it might look a little bit like this. I'm somewhere in the western extremities of County Donegal, being ferried to one of the most inaccessible places in the whole of Ireland. I have my 200-year-old guidebook with me, but I'm going somewhere that's never made it into any guidebook, past or present. I'm heading towards an ancient fort that's steeped in myth and legend. One thing we're not short of here in Ireland are stories. Loads of them. Myths and legends that have been handed down through the generations may or may not help us navigate through life. And many of them are associated with places like this, Dune Fort. Nobody knows about this. It's completely hidden away, this architectural treasure. I mean, if this was in Cornwall, you'd have coachloads of people descending upon the place, demanding to use the toilet. Luckily, I went earlier. Patrick the boatman is one of the few people in the world who knows how to find this long-forgotten secret. The walls are nearly 5 meters high, and there's just one opening.
Here we are at last.
Patrick looks like he knows a thing or two, so I feel I should ask him something. can't believe how thick the walls are. Must be about 10 foot, is it?
Very, very much so, yes. A lot of stone.
Hell of a lot of stone.
A lot of stone.
There's a lot of stone here.
A lot of manpower.
Yeah. How many people? I mean, 50 people?
Who knows? Who knows?
100 people?
How long did it take them? Who knows?
Turns out Patrick has as many questions as I do. Luckily, he's not the only one on this supposedly deserted island. Hey, I thought this place was uninhabited.
It is, apart from myself.
The thing about television, when you come to a place like this, there's nearly always an expert waiting to tell you all about it. You don't live here?
Not all the time, as much as I possibly could.
But you've been here a few times?
Hundreds. Wow. Yeah.
It is incredible, isn't it?
It's an amazing place. It's just such a magical place. And you can almost feel the ancestors here, or at least I do, every time I come out here.
Paula Harvey is a local archaeologist. I'd imagine, Paula, that whoever kind of lived here or used this place was a wealthy family. I mean, it was...
Oh yeah, it would have been a major king in this part of Donegal. It's a major stronghold. It's
it looks defensive.
Massive defensive fortification.
Would you say that was the main purpose of this place, was defensive?
Oh yes, yeah.
Right.
And a homestead. And probably a big political statement for the other tribes that would have been occupying the area.
It was kind of like ostentatious, a big show of wealth.
Yeah, this was like the Louvre of the time, as it were. Or Windsor Palace or Buckingham Palace. This was it.
Because it has never been excavated, Dune Fort remains one of the biggest archaeological mysteries in Donegal. All that's really known about it are the stories. Paula tells me the one about the Dune Fort witch who inadvertently turned her beloved cow into stone. The cow promptly sunk to the bottom of the lake.
The Dune Fort witch was so upset and that she let out a death scream and dropped dead.
Can you tell me, why are our stories so miserable?
We do have some romantic stories.
Mostly with a touch of misery.
With the touch of misery. I can't argue with that, so I can't.
Like, I'm thinking of the Children of Lair and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's misery piled upon misery.
Yes, and there are lots of them like that.
You know, you've got these children, these poor stepchildren, and they're turned into swans. And like, if that was a German folktale, they'd be swans for about a year, and then they'd be kissed by a prince, and then they'd live happily ever after. In Ireland, they're swans for 900 years.
Yes.
And when they eventually become human again, they're immediately converted to Christianity, and then they die.
Yep. Yeah.
That's that's a typical Irish folk story. Have you heard the story of Dick Whittington? This is an English folk tale. Dick Whittington, he's a poor boy, he goes to London, gets really rich. That's an English folk story.
We can't beat that, can we?
We can't beat that.
No, I'm sure somewhere along the
misery
line.
piled upon misery.
No.
Miserable as they are, our stories haven't done us any harm, have they? There's something about the old myths and legends and the distinctive landscape that continues to inspire storytellers today. Never more so than here. These are the dark hedges of Ballymoney, an avenue of 90 beech trees leading to an important estate. Because they're growing in soft ground, the trees have leaned in towards each other over the years, their branches knitting together to form a surreal and sort of creepy tunnel. It is incredible. I mean, even the Halls, the most verbose people in the world at the time, were a bit stuck for words. Surely our account, poor and weak as it is, of this most singular, peculiar and marvellous production of nature is sufficient to direct towards it the attention of the tourist. Nowadays, tourists don't need much encouragement to come here. After all, they've seen it on TV. The Dark Hedges feature as a location in the hugely popular fantasy epic Game of Thrones. And the more intrepid fans of the series make their way here, suitably dressed for the occasion. The Dark Hedges have been made into celebrity trees. It's hard to convey how obscure this picturesque corner of Northern Ireland was just a few years ago. Now it's probably one of the most visited tree-lined landscapes in the whole world. what all that entails. The story of how the dark hedges have become Gothic superstar trees begins in Northern Ireland's capital. Back in the 1840s, the Halls described Belfast as the only manufacturing town in the whole of Ireland. They weren't far wrong. Belfast went on to host one of the biggest shipyards in the world. Where hulls of ships like Titanic were once painted, now you'll find vast film studios. A rising demand for background actors in long-running shows like Game of Thrones has created a new source of employment. Chris Condy and Lawrence Doherty are film extras.
I mean, extras don't always get the credit they deserve, but but you've been told by the Game of Thrones people that you are the best extras in the world. I'm not just blowing smoke up your holes here. That's their words.
Yeah.
But what's in it for them? What's in it for the production companies? Like, why Northern Ireland?
The thing about Northern Ireland is you have this hub here in Belfast. It's a great hub, but you go 30 minutes in any direction and you can be on a Dothraki plain, you can be on King's Landing set, you can be on a beach, you can be on a cliff. You have anything you need here. The scenery is extraordinary here, and I think that was one of the major pulls.
Have you any documentary evidence that you've been in these shows?
Funny you should say that.
Yes, there's quite a bit.
There's
Lawrence's and.
This is a great film.
That's Kate Blanchett, is it? No?
That's Gillian Anderson.
Oh, Gillian Anderson. I'm so sorry.
That's the one.
That's the blonde hair.
We're keeping that on.
Yes.
We're not getting away with that. What we're doing right here is we're staring in abject fear at imaginary 20-foot robots on the ridge of a hill, and I thoroughly recommend that.
You were method acting.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the sheer fear in my eyes.
I can see the robot through your eyes there. That is good.
When the likes of Lawrence and Chris aren't on set, they can be found sharpening their combat skills in what amounts to a sort of extras university.
So I'll bring you in here and you can see the various things that go on.
Oh my God.
So this is our combat class here.
Oh yeah.
So the guys are just warming up. What they're doing is they're learning how to disarm over here with a gun and with a knife.
That might come in handy.
What do we start with?
Would you like weapons or do you want open hand?
Well, I guess weapons.
Weapons,
I mean,
okay. We'll go for guns because they're always
this
good
being
fun.
Belfast, there are a number of jokes I could make, but I'm not tempted to make any of them. Trust me.
Do you want to be the stick-up person?
I'll take it off you. I'll disarm you.
Okay, that's good. That's awesome.
I'm a disarming type of guy.
I'll come here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm totally not expecting this. I'm just bird watching. All right.
And give me your binoculars.
Oh no, these are precious binoculars. Oh, you've got a gun.
That's the one.
There you go.
That's very good, actually.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Thank you. And then you just take your left shoulder and put it down behind me. Keep it there. Oh, can I do that?
There we go. Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. That was all me. That was all me. Yeah.
Oh no, just when I'm getting complacent, they bring out Excalibur.
Oh, I see, right. So this is the kind of thing we use here.
Okay.
These are this is a dulled sword. So you will have a feel of that.
It's good weight anyway, though, isn't it? Good heft. So you really need to be quite strong. The other advantage is you instantly feel more of a man. Seriously, with a sword in your hand.
Well, that's true.
I mean, I think it's a good way to start the day, just to hold one.
Yeah.
And just wave it around on your own. You don't need to tell anyone.
Just in the privacy of your own room.
Seriously, I mean, I genuinely would advocate that.
I think you're right. I think we should bring them back.
As a self-esteem tool.
Sword fighting is high on the list of must-have skills for those hopeful Game of Thrones extras. I think it's high time I reinvented myself as a medieval warrior. On second thoughts...
Are you scared yet? That's enough. That's enough.
My interest in Ireland's great stories and legends and what they might reveal about us takes me to Dublin, the capital of the Irish Republic. Dublin has a reputation for being a great literary city. The pubs are full of writers and poets. Most other countries, they're called characters. But not here. We erect statues in their honour. Every other park bench is occupied by a monument to some great scribe or other. Patrick Kavanagh, in this case. And this is the very louche Oscar Wilde. Brendan Behan here described himself as a drinker with writing problems. Hence the pint that gets plonked on his grave every birthday. The Halls love the old storytellers. Here they say, they enliven the dreariest road with their wit, and are, of course, rich in old stories. Some they hear, others they coin, and occasionally make a strange hodgepodge of history, working a volume of wonders out of a solitary fact. Well, I think the Halls would be bamboozled by this man behind me, James Joyce, who brought storytelling to a whole new level. Joyce's novel Ulysses is one of the most celebrated books in the world, often described as the forerunner of the modern novel. Set in Edwardian Dublin in 1904, this colossal book follows a day in the life of the central character Leopold Bloom. Now, more than a century later, the same day, the 16th of June, is still widely celebrated throughout the city.
Happy Bloomsday.
Happy
Thank
Bloomsday.
It's Bloomsday in Dublin, and I'm hungry. I feel like some kidneys. Where else would you go but Kennedy's Bar? The place is hopping, with devotees quoting extravagantly from the great book. Joyce exploits stream of consciousness as a storytelling technique in Ulysses. An unusual amount of sexually explicit content led to the publishers being prosecuted and the book itself being banned in Ireland. For many, reading Ulysses is a rite of passage. Apparently, 98% of the people who've bought the book have never actually finished its 250,000 words. But I'm proud to say that PJ Murphy and I are amongst the 2% of people that have, or say they have. Something really civilised about a city celebrating a book.
Absolutely, and especially with a wonderful breakfast.
Yeah.
That's been celebrated in Calypso.
This is the breakfast that the main character, Leopold Bloom, had.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's got kidneys on it.
Kidneys, yeah, with a faint tint of urine.
He's right. Oh, I suppose I better keep chewing.
The Irish were they had a great oral tradition of telling stories which passed down through the generations, and he incorporates a lot of those in Ulysses.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that James Joyce has transformed Dublin and its people into something of a literary theme park. PJ drags me away from all this highfalutin madness to a very different part of the city. I love Dublin. I love the fact that you're so near a beach, like you can walk to the beach nearly from sort of anywhere in the city centre. The 40 Foot is an old Dublin bathing spot. It features in the opening chapter of Ulysses, which is why it's on our itinerary today. I've never actually been here before, PJ.
Why not?
I mean, obviously I've heard of it. But once used exclusively by men, the 40 Foot is open to everyone now. And it's one of the most popular places to jump into the choppy waters of the Irish Sea, if you like that sort of thing. This is the 40 Foot.
Indeed it is.
One of the thousands, literally thousands of landmarks featured in Ulysses.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is probably the most talked about one.
There's that famous line as well, isn't there? He describes it as the snot green sea.
That he does.
And the scrotum tightening sea.
That he does too.
Yeah, I bet you can tell people who swim at the 40 Foot by the tightness of their scrotum.
Well, you can, especially when they swim without their trogs on.
I can't imagine anybody ever swimming in that. Oh, spoke too soon. Old habits die hard here at the 40 Foot. But why the name? the 40-foot, I hear you ask? Well, it's said that groups of 20 people, each with 2 feet, gather here on occasions. 40-foot. Well, that's one version of the story. Moving on. Little more than 100 kilometres is all that separates Ireland's most famous writer from Ireland's most famous legend. This is Omeath in County Louth, which even the halls recognised as abounding in vestiges of very remote antiquity. Ugh. And lo and behold, I find myself right in the middle of a reenactment of one of Ireland's oldest and greatest epic tales. Without doubt, the greatest figure in Irish mythology is Kullen, a boy warrior who at the age of 17 defeated Queen Maeve's army entirely on his own. He was the original Celtic superhero. King Arthur, Jesus and the Incredible Hulk all rolled into one.
So, we are going to put up the biggest battle here in Omeath.
And this is the man himself, Kullen, recruiting warriors for the battle ahead.
Are you with me? Yeah! Here he is with me!
Well, looks like he's got a bit of support there. And he'll need it, because Queen Maeve and her army are about to stroll into town. The moment of truth is upon us. The bloody battle is about to begin. This ferocious encounter is just one chapter in a great Irish saga. Commemorated here in Omeath, the cattle raid of Cooley is one of the oldest vernacular stories in the whole of Western Europe.
We are known for our storytelling. We are the best storytellers in the world. Our Irish history.
Pretty excessive claim?
Oh, it's a claim, but it's actually in history. It's our history.
I think stories, like whether you know it or not, do help you through life. You know, they help you deal with stuff. They help you prepare you for all sorts of eventualities.
They definitely do, and also playing different characters.
No, absolutely. I mean, if my community is ever attacked by like a huge army led by a crazy woman, I'll know exactly what to do. Kullen has always been my role model. In an earlier story, he kills a ferocious dog, not unlike this one, with his bare hands. In case you're wondering, it's an Irish wolfhound, and this impressive beast has been in and out of the storybooks ever since. In fact, its legendary status continues to grow. I've come to meet Tracy Carroll and the Wolfhound mascots of the Irish Defence Force.
Fantasy rise!
Wow, very fine specimens. Dogs aren't bad either. Tracy is one of the country's top wolfhound breeders. Is it true they go back to the beginning of time?
They're one of the oldest breeds in existence and they're native to Ireland.
How long have they been around?
Well, they predate the pyramids, so they do. So we have information on them, I think it's well over 5,000 BC.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What information is that?
Back in Newgrange, there's carvings of them.
Really?
Yeah.
And they look exactly like this?
Yeah. This is Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy's here today with the it is ambulance uniform on for the National Ambulance Service. And here we have Corporal Keela. So she is the mascot of the Irish Defence Forces.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. And when you say Corporal Keela, what exactly do you mean?
She has a rank and she's a corporal.
She's an actual officer in the Irish Army?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Just messing with me?
No.
She's an army officer. So now, I'm going to be formally presented to Corporal Keela.
Keela, sit.
At ease. The Wolfhound got its name not because it looks like a wolf, no, but because it actually used to hunt them. Are they fast?
They're very fast, yeah. They are the marathon runners of the sighthound group, where you've got your greyhounds who would be quicker in a sprint, but these would keep going.
They'd outlast the greyhound?
They'd outlast, well, they had to outlast the wolves.
Yeah, I guess. The speed of the Wolfhound is down to the way it runs. It's called the double suspension rotary gallop. And the only way to see this is by filming it on a high-speed camera.
Okay, let her go.
Wow, the speed is phenomenal. A wolf wouldn't stand a chance.
Okay, let me see.
Now it's time to look at the results. Looks like Keela is as keen to see it as we are. We're watching a prehistoric wolf hunter in action. Just going to pause it there.
So what is actually happening there? The legs leave the ground.
The legs leave the ground twice. They leave as they come together, and then again as they're fully extended.
So this is the double suspension rotary gallop.
So this is the gait that gives them their speed and their power that they need to hunt wolves.
Right. Wow, I wouldn't like to be a wolf, seriously.
You wouldn't like a team of them coming after you,
coming at you, no.
I can see now why this dog has been immortalised. Nothing about it has been overstated.
So they really are one of the most magnificent breeds in the world.
In my opinion, definitely. And Ireland should be very proud of them.
Yeah.
What
makes them uniquely Irish?
Well, they have all the traits of the Irish people, so they do. They're loyal and strong and loving and gentle until you pester them. So they are.
Now doesn't that sound remarkably like our Celtic superhero Kullen? You wouldn't mess with him either. County Donegal is Ireland's Wild West. Located in the remote northwest corner of the Republic, it is some of the most dramatic landscape in Ireland. But there's a lot more going on beneath the surface of this strange land. According to the halls here in Donegal, every spot has some tradition. There is scarcely a mile without a legend. And here in the Poison Glen, they reckon the Balor of the Evil Eye, you know, the notorious giant, he was killed here. And while he lay dying, a tear formed in his eye, splitting the rock and poisoning the glen. Sounds plausible? Mind you, the poison didn't get rid of the midges. When the Halls were researching their guidebook in the 1840s, the population of Donegal was 300,000. It's now little more than half that. A few years after Mr. and Mrs. Hall returned to London, Ireland experienced a devastating famine. 1 million people starved to death, and at least a further 1 million were forced to emigrate. I've come to an abandoned railway station to meet Waylon Gary Whitedeer. Gary's people, the Choctaw Nation, were able to identify with the Irish experience of famine.
Nice to see you. Great to see you, Ardal.
Yeah, what a place.
I know, yeah.
From 1830 onwards, large numbers of Choctaw Indians were forcibly removed from their ancestral homelands to reservations thousands of miles away.
We had lost a quarter of our population as well to starvation and famine-related diseases on the eviction, the Great Eviction.
The Choctaw got to hear about the plight of the Irish. Then in 1847, they donated some of the money given to them as compensation.
I think an echo of their own suffering went off in their heads. And so they stood and they gave what little they had. It was described at the time, the Choctaw donation, which was 170 American dollars, as a widow's mite. One poor, dispossessed, and shattered nation giving to another.
Oh, excellent. It was a sizable sum, though, in those days.
In those days, I think it would have been, I think the way it would translate now would be 5,000 or 6,000 euro.
This extraordinary act of generosity by his poor and displaced people inspired Waylon to come to Donegal, where he now lives and works as an artist.
Can you show me some of your...
I can, yeah. Well, Ardal.
He's created a picture marking the legendary Choctaw donation.
And it has to do with the famine gift of the Choctaws. can see, glowing in the hand of this woman here. And so we say in the Choctaw language, Ayok Chaya, which means life force. So really that gift was a gift of life force.
It's fascinating to me that somebody like Whalon has chosen to come and live here, at the foot of Mount Errigal. It happens to be a place that I know really well. I used to come here as a kid, summer after summer. We used to stay here for months every summer. And it was a pretty cool place, It had a crisp factory and had a crazy nightclub called Dodge, and it had...
That sounds a bit Dodge.
It was Dodge, and it had normal stuff, but I felt like a stranger. And I also found the landscape quite different to anywhere else in Ireland.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Quite different, especially Errigal, which kind of genuinely haunted me.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, as a kid, because it's kind of a spooky kind of a mountain.
It has a presence, doesn't it?
Definitely. So, there's one thing Whalon and I agree on, and that's the power of this mountain.
There seems to be a pathway of energy. There seems to be lines running from Errigal out through this land, out 9 miles out to sea to Tory Island. And later I found out that Errigal's associated with Lu, the sun god, and that Tory is associated with Balor.
Balor of the evil eye.
Yeah, the Fomorians.
He's responsible for the poison glen.
The poison glen, yeah, came out of his evil eye.
Whalon's discovery that Mount Errigal has a connection to one of Irish mythology's most notorious characters might help to explain my own fears about the place. Then all of a sudden, it's as if the mountain has disappeared. Errigal has gone, has it?
Jesus Christ. Sorry, don't.
No, it has gone.
Yeah, well.
Has it?
Don't know.
It's still there?
I don't think so.
Because it often disappears.
Yeah, it can.
Just suddenly, like the mist comes down and it's gone.
It is, yeah.
You don't, still there. I've climbed it loads of times. Believe me, when I was a kid, what did we do today? Oh, I know. Let's climb Errigal again. Hooray! You've no idea how many times I climbed that mountain.
Oh, yeah. To me, on most days, it is kind of a brooding presence,
Yeah, I thought that. It was always menacing, and it genuinely haunted me as a kid. I genuinely had nightmares about Errigal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The other side of the mountain is the picturesque Poisoned Glen, home of the Church of Dunlewy. Built in the 1850s, the decline in the local population was so severe it was abandoned less than a century later. But this church is testament to a story that resonates in Ireland to this very day. This here is a Protestant church. As you can see, it's quite austere. And buried on the grounds is a Protestant man who, unusually for the time, married a Catholic lady. This liaison dates back more than 100 years, when mixed marriages between Protestants and Catholics were rare and would most likely have scandalised the neighbourhood. If the man, Richard Crankshaw, is buried here, what happened to his wife? This woman, let's call her Nellie, because that actually was her name. When she died, she chose to be buried in the nearby Catholic cemetery. But by way of concession, unlike all the other graves in the Catholic graveyard, she chose to have her one facing that of her late husband's. The conflict between Nellie and Richard's respective faiths was played out on a much bigger canvas over the border in Northern Ireland. Back in the 1840s, the Halls were unsettled by their visit to Derry. It is impossible to approach this venerable and heroic city without being struck with its apparent fitness for resisting assaults from invaders. Completed in 1618, the walls of Derry, 1.5 kilometres in total, circumnavigate the city centre. Impressive and all as they are, the walls were built by the British to keep the English Protestants safe within and the Irish outside. Once completed, Derry was promptly renamed Londonderry. Even the halls noted the poverty and deprivation of the Irish Catholics living outside the city walls. Yeah, that's the bog side. Have a poor Catholic neighbourhood outside the city walls on which we stand. Derry saw the worst of the Troubles in the late 60s when conflict flared up between Unionist and Nationalist sympathisers. The story of the Troubles is documented on the walls of people's houses. And 50 years on, these murals are a constant reminder of the 30-year conflict. Growing up in a border region myself, it was very hard to avoid the Troubles on many levels. Here's the thing. In the late 60s, you had a civil rights movement, in Derry particularly, demanding equal rights for Catholics who'd been effectively been denied a vote and denied jobs. And that's not me being biased, that's just historical fact. And this civil rights movement was brutally crushed by a largely Protestant police force. And then within a few short years, you had the British Army on the streets. And in Derry here, and this is one of the most significant moments in Derry's history, you had Bloody Sunday, when 14 unarmed civilians were shot and killed by British soldiers. Now, these are facts. And that kind of really kick-started the period known as the Troubles, which is 30, 40 years of carnage, atrocities committed by both sides. And that, thankfully, is over now, that period in history, that very dark period. And people are really, really trying to move on. Today, any news that hits the headlines about Derry is more likely to be about its world-famous Halloween event than anything else. October 31st marks the end of summer and the beginning of winter. The transition from the light half of the year to the dark half. A window of opportunity for spirits and the souls of the dead to return to the land of the living. To try and find out why Halloween has become such a big deal in Derry, I've come to a meeting in the centre of the city to discuss this year's event.
The Celtic New Year and the Celtic calendar.
Jim Collins is one of the organisers. Is there a particularly kind of blackish sense of humour in Derry, possibly as a result of coming through the Troubles, do you think? And that maybe is what attracted a lot of you guys to Halloween festival rather than a festival at some other time of the year?
That dark humour does come out of... You get it when people suffer, when people have to endure a lot. The dark humour sees them through the dark times.
There were Halloween nights where people were dressed up as 30 or 40 guys went out and dressed up as soldiers. Which you'd never be able to do any other night of the week. And there was people dressed up as dragon's teeth, the concrete roadblocks, and they'd sit in the middle of the road and the cars would stop and turn and go the other way. It was part of the black humour of, what we were used to in the border areas,
Religion can be divisive, and I respect all religions, but let's look at ways in which, find ways where we can be united or agree upon stuff. And Halloween provides for that. It provides for Protestants, it provides for Catholics, it provides for people of no religion. All they come together and unite in a celebration. And, sure, that's about a crack, sure. How could you be against that?
In 2015, a national American newspaper voted Derry the best place in the world to celebrate Halloween. Not bad going for a city you'd have thought twice about visiting 30 years ago. Leprechauns, rabbit's feet, four-leaf clover. Every society has its good luck charm. By the way, you only find one four-leaf clover for every 10,000 three-leaf clover. So you'd be incredibly lucky to find one. A strange notion that the Irish are in some way a lucky race persists to this day. Thanks. The look of the Irish is one of those widely used expressions, but not by the Irish. I mean, it's quite ironic. Any glance at Irish history will tell you we never really had much luck, but it wasn't for want of trying. The origin of the phrase, "look at the Irish," is actually derogatory. it goes back to the American gold rush. If a paddy struck gold, well, it wasn't because of brains or hard work. It was luck. I've come to see a man whose entire business is based on luck. Well, almost. Paul McLean runs the biggest independent chain of betting shops in Northern Ireland. Hello, how are you?
Come on, then.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
So you're the brains of the operation?
Well, hopefully. If that's true, we could be in trouble.
30% of Northern Irish adults have gambled at least once in the last year. We do like to put the so-called luck of the Irish to the test. But is Paul a gambler?
Throughout the years, it's always been shown that when bookmakers get too interested, you start to form your own opinion. You have to have an opinion to make up your odds. If you try to then decide, well, I'll back my opinion, that's how it all falls down.
A bookie who doesn't bet? Well, maybe that's the secret of their success. To pursue my investigation of the luck of the Irish, I've asked Paul if I can meet some of his punters.
I've been gambling since I was 15.
Really?
And now I'm only 41.
And it's not a curse or anything. You don't see it as a curse or anything. Like
It's a curse if you're gambling your wages.
Yeah.
I think when you're younger, you're quite reckless. Because you think you can beat the bookie, but we all know you can't beat the bookie.
100%.
Yeah.
I joined the Navy when I was 15. And my father signed the paper so I could go. And my wages was £3 a week. And we got paid once a fortnight. But when I got back on land, I would have put the wages on the horse. Didn't have money for a lollipop or an ice cream in there.
The Navy was the best place for you.
It was.
Underwater too, he was underwater.
Was he betting on the fish as well?
I was in the submarine, so.
Yeah.
I have been to rat racing in Ireland.
That's right.
Rat racing?
There was a pub in Crumlin, up the road here, and they had pipes, 6 pipes in the ceiling of the pub.
That's right.
And they put the rats in, and you're laughing.
You're shitting me.
I'm not.
No, that's
I swear to
I was at
God,
it as well.
on my grandchildren's lives, I swear to God. And they had rat racing. And then one night, it was always on a Friday night, one of the rats fell out of the tube, and then, of course, there was mayhem and women screaming and all.
Betting on a rat race sounds like a tall story. But if it's true, imagine spending your evening watching rats running along drain pipes. Huh? It's not my idea of fun. The look of the Irish, eh? One of the most popular items in local newspapers and on local radio are the death notices. We Irish can't get enough of them. Who's died this week? How did they die? Where's the funeral? Unlike the British, we do not shun death. For us, it's a cause for celebration of a life well lived. I'm off to the Dingle Peninsula in County Kerry, where the Halls observed a number of local funerals at close quarters. The Halls bang on about death, page after gloomy page. The most anxious thoughts of the Irish peasant through life revert to his death, and he will endure the extreme of poverty in order that he may scrape together the means of obtaining a fine wake and a decent funeral. We're not that morbid, are we? The Halls might have had us down as idle, reckless and unprincipled, but morbid we most certainly are not. And to prove it, I've come to meet the O'Connors of Dingle. They've been burying people for generations.
Nice to meet you. How are you? Welcome to Dingle.
Thanks very much. Father and son?
That's it. Exactly,
Yeah. Which one is the father?
There we are.
Clearly, it's a little early in the day for jokes.
Exactly.
I want to ask Donal and Daniel if things have changed much in the funeral business over the years. In the old book that I've been sort of using as a guidebook, written by the Halls in the Victorian times, like they noticed that it was very obvious that people not exactly looked forward to death, but they certainly put an awful lot of store by it, and they saved up for it, and they didn't want to let themselves down by not having a big funeral.
That's
and a
still
big
what
wake.
you'd be amazed on, the people actually that have the money put aside for the funeral. You know, people don't, a lot of elderly people, they're just so disciplined, they never want to be a burden on anybody, and they always have the money put away and whatever, and that's in the locality here anyway.
I mean, you get humorous funerals. I remember a friend of mine, his father passed away, and I went to, he was standing at the graveside just after the coffin had been lowered into the grave, and I went up to him and I said the time-honoured words, you know, sorry for your trouble, and he said, sure, why are you sorry? It wasn't your fault.
Donal and Daniel conduct most of the burials in Ventry Graveyard. They've arranged for a grave to be dug, so I can put myself in the shoes of my ever-observant predecessors, Mr. and Mrs. Hall. These are professional grave diggers, but as in the Hall's day, it's usual in rural areas for the family to dig the grave themselves.
Yes, that's it, yes.
What are you doing there, Eddie?
Measuring the depth of the grave, like.
How deep does it have to be?
They have to be down 6 feet.
Eddie uses Donal's homemade wooden gauge to ensure he's got the dimensions right. Donal calls it his coffinometer.
The day before, you had 4 or 5 of the family, and maybe 6 or 7, come together, and they dug the grave down to the depth, and they had everything ready for the day after when the coffin is come.
And do you think that helped them, like with the?
It did, of course.
Terms.
It kind of gave a finish to the whole thing. Like after the person dying, he was buried, he was covered over, and that was the end. Like I guess. Yeah. Now, Jerry, measure it like this now.
The Halls believed that ordinary people were very anxious about their funerals. But they were wrong, then as now. The Irish funeral is an important social gathering, an opportunity to celebrate the life of the deceased. There are tears, yes, of course, but there is a touch of joy too in recalling memories and funny stories about the dearly departed.
I honestly can't think of a better way to go, or a better place to stay.
Our stories, as well as keeping our culture alive, help to guide us through life and come to terms with death. They also remind us of who we are and where we came from.